Well, what should we call it? Something that makes sense, like three houses, or triangle strategy? Okay, lots to talk about with triangle strategy. The art style, it's immediately captivating, reminiscent of Octopath Traveler, which I now have played. Got the demo the other day finally. Enjoyed it except for dying at the first boss. It definitely plays on a nostalgia factor for many of us. I'm excited for the potential of 2D HD remakes, namely Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI, if Square is listening. Well, if you haven't played it, what does triangle strategy even mean? Basically, again, like I sort of joked about in the beginning, a better name would have been the Three Houses, with the main man Serenoa Wolfart, and other common names like Gustadolf. There's basically all this royalty, and there's basically these three branches, so they chose to name it Triangle Strategy, and maybe because, it's a strategy-based RPG. Once I played the first fight, how does it actually play? Well, if you're an older guy like me, Nobunaga's Ambition was the first thing that came to mind from the NES days. A little bit of tighter graphics here, of course, generations later. Actual gameplay-wise, it reminded me of South Park: The Fractured But Whole, in the sense that this is very much a turn-based game, though with a little more freedom in moving to different squares on the isolated map of the battlefield. And that is a complete compliment, because personally I loved South Park: The Fractured But Whole. So again, triangle strategy here. It played smoothly, and it was nice that there was a difficulty option in playing the game, so naturally I chose to play on very easy. If you caught my video on Metroid Dread, you know that I'm not really in this to play a super challenging, rage-inducing games at this point in my life. So fortunately, the difficulty, in fact, was very easy. So if you like that style, if you like the turn-based tactical RPG style, tiles, moving around, all that stuff, you'll feel right at home here. The short tutorial screens and introducing battles had enough information without being too overwhelming. There's plenty of cutscenes throughout the game, and I gotta say I feel these are a little bit weird in the sense of this game has almost full voiceover with a 2D HD mechanic / aesthetic going on, and it's just a little bit odd to see mostly really good voiceover too, might I add, with little 2D sprites whose mouths don't even move. It's a weird dichotomy, if you will. And it's interesting because, again, the voiceover itself is great, except I'm a fast reader, and it seems a little weird to be done with a sentence when the dialogue is still playing that same sentence. And it may be easier to watch with actual 3D models as opposed to the 2D sprites. So again, it looks awesome, and I'm all for the remakes, believe me, but there's something that comes off as very mobile game about the combination of really fluid voice acting with the 2D sprites. So granted, yeah, it's HD, and it still looks cool. No denying that. The presentation, very interesting here. The map and tile interface works for combat along with the menus, but something that stood out to me, the map. So this is not like a typical Zelda overworld map like something I'm used to. Instead, you select different points on the map as to where you want to go to drive the story forward, including sub-stories, or something as they call them in the game, which is just a fancy way of saying side missions or side quests. So the map is easy enough to navigate in the beginning, but especially with open world RPGs these days, it feels a little bit backwards to me to not have any sort of map exploration. At least not in these first two chapters of the game that I played. So what about exploration in general? Again, there's no real overworld map exploration, but you can explore a little campsite, a little encampment they call it, before battle to upgrade your weapons and the like. There's a blacksmith in there, you can upgrade everything and test them out. So if I do have a gripe about this game, about triangle strategy, it's probably the lack of exploration. There's an isolated town patch, so to speak, before you go out into battle. Just don't expect Hyrule Castle Town or anything like that. It seems much more simple and, quite frankly, not very memorable to me. Granted, I only played the 2 chapters from the demo, and at that point, that was enough for me. The demo does include a 3rd chapter, but I sort of had my fill at that point. And in fairness, to be fair, I am not a big tactical RPG guy. South Park: The Fractured But Whole was kind of an exception for me, just because I do love things that are really funny. Funny games can go a long way with me, and those are always really memorable, which is fun. So again, like I said, not that this has to be memorable, but when games like Chrono Trigger from Square already existed from generations ago, You can tell I'm from generations ago because I just say Square or even Squaresoft sometimes. It's hard not to compare a lackluster town to something more complex, such as a festival you can run around and have fun with and play mini games in, hashtag Chrono Trigger. So overall, I think this is going to be subjective, I suppose, as most things in life are. The graphics, very similar to Octopath Traveler if you like that. I personally do. There's a reason that Square Enix, how do you say it? Let me know in the comments below because I would love to know the actual pronunciation of that. And I had the original ActRaiser growing up. We always said Enix. So, the graphics, if you love the 2D HD aesthetic, you'll be right at home here. It looks fantastic. The sound, the music, although it's great, didn't have me really humming along to any of the tunes, so nothing here that's like, wow, that was one for the ages, or any memorable, Ocarina of Time style music, or any of the Final Fantasy stuff from past ages. The voices, again, I thought the voiceover was actually pretty good, although I felt like the speech could be a little sped up, and honestly, I feel like that in a lot of games. To name a few, I think Dragon Quest XI that I'm currently playing through. I think that the speech is just very slow, and it just ends up sounding a bit robotic and almost gives it a children's storybook vibe that for me personally kind of ruins the flow. So fortunately, you can cut the audio short if you're a fast reader, and for lengthy cutscenes, which there are many, and especially if it's just these little 2D sprites standing in a room, expect a lot of dialogue. There's an option to autoplay all the dialogue. Gameplay-wise, I thought it was good, but personally one I'll probably pass on picking up the full game on. So if you love tactical RPG gameplay and that's all you're after, you'll probably have a great time with Triangle Strategy, assuming the rest of the game improves on what the demo offers. Presentation-wise, the map and menus are clean, and there's enough tutorials along the way so you don't get too lost. Also, it was very nice to see a difficulty setting. Like I said, I played on very easy, and in fact, it was very easy. I was blazing through the demo, and I had, a decent time with it, but I'm not a big tactical RPG guy. So my personal verdict, overall, I'm going to say personally for me, the game is not bad. I had a little fun with the demo, but until games like Live Alive or Live Alive, however you say that, or a Chrono Trigger 2D HD remake are out, please let's get a 2D HD Chrono Trigger and a Final Fantasy VI. Agree with me, disagree, let me know in the comments about that. Let me know what you would want to see in a 2D HD remake. So if you like the video, please again do all that fun YouTube stuff, subscribe, like, share the video, and I'll see you in the next video.